To me, it's a classic hit split. They need to improve at home. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. This is Taiwo Najobi, your host on Land Analysis Maple Sports. We always try to bring unfiltered opinion, sharp analysis, and some big love for Canadian hopes and eyes. We get this opportunity to break down the NBA, the CEBL, and we cover some small space for smart hockey talk. This is run by your commentator, analyst, and unapologetic fan of the game. Because we'll be talking about basketball today, I think it's good to talk a little bit about the LA Clippers. They've been playing so well. I think they've lost only 5 games in the last over 23 games that they've played. They've lost only 5. And earlier in the season, when they were 3 of 21, they've been able to repair some of those damage. And right now, the team is playing at a very high level. I'm a bit excited, and it's good. This is the kind of time you can say, okay, yes, I'm supporting the LA Clippers. They're playing at a very high level. Kawhi is very healthy. A lot of support is coming across LA, California. A lot of things are going in the right direction. And however, what I can say is, if you look at the dimension of the team, everybody is looking healthy. A lot of young guys are coming up, like Kobe Sanders, Don. Those guys are playing at a very high level. As much as we want to continue to have our stars, push our teams to the next level, we also want to be able to bring in young people that can help to form the core of what the future will look like when the team now starts to ship out most of their aged veterans. But I'm happy, looking at the way the table is going, I like what I'm seeing so far, and things are trending towards the right direction, And I'm happy to now say that I'm a LA Clippers fan. I'm back on the bandwagon. Things are going a bit smooth. Yesterday I watched the match. We just won against the Utah Jazz. Good performance so far. Everything is going on smoothly, and I can say that they're beginning to make some noise in the West. All we just need to do is to get back to being a 500 team and, win more games than we have lost. Presently, we're on 22-24. Last time I checked, as at the 26th, we're still on 21-24. But right now, we're on 22-24 because of what we won, the match we won yesterday. So it means that we're going to be very soon getting to 24-24 and go ahead of that. And we can now begin to say that we're a team that is above 500. I'm going to use this opportunity to just do tiering. I've done the tiering based on the table. I just felt that it was not going to be fair to just come and just talk about the matches that were played during the rival week, which we have just concluded last week. I just wanted to do, because this was also end of the month, wanted to do an analysis generally on all the teams so far in the NBA, the Eastern and Western Conference, break everything down, and just give you an idea of where it's tending towards. I know we are, preparing for the All-Star games, and, the All-Star games are approaching. That will be between the week of the February 13th to February 15th, and a lot of preparations are going in place. The league is preparing, and it's going to be played in the Intuit Dome, which is the LA Clippers home as well. Yeah, I'm very, very excited that my team is hosting the All-Star games this year. And, because our stadium is quite big and it's going to be able to take a lot of people. And that's how, the Intuit Dome has been one of the best arenas that you can think of in the NBA. So that's why hosting the All-Star game for the first time is going to be very monumental, because that's going to be the first All-Star game being hosted by the Intuit Dome, which is the new home of the LA Clippers. And that's why I'm also excited about it. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about some of the changes that are going to be coming this year in the All-Star games. There's going to be a lot of Team 1, Team 2, Team 3, Team 4. And I like the way they're going to be getting a lot of fans excited. Hopefully, I'm going to see you there at the All-Star games. I want you guys to show up. Let's see what's going to come up in the NBA games. And, we can just take it from there. So diving right into the Eastern Conference analysis, I did some deep analysis, and this is valid as at the 26th of January, making it a bit more detailed about what direction are the teams going, what what are the narratives across board? Who are the players that are going to be able to hold the team a bit more accountable between now and the end of the season? And these are indications of what they're going to be like at the end of February as well. What I want to always do is last week of every month, do a ranking based on the table and just give some kind of analysis projection of what's going to be like by the end of the next month when we're doing our review. I will be doing this up onto the build up till when we get to the championship and the off season, and we're also going to be doing that at the postseason as well. Looking at every month, movements that are being made by the teams and, what's going on. I know that there's a deadline coming up very soon for trading across teams, and a lot of teams are trying to see how they can get Giannis Antetokounmpo. A lot of things are moving. Teams are becoming a bit more bold now to approach the box and try and see if they can sell Giannis. New York is still the only team that still don't have assets for him, but they're looking at, okay, if he decides that he wants to go to New York, they can make it happen. But Giannis, from what everybody knows about him and league sources, he will never come out to say he wants to go to the New York team anymore, with the way the narratives have gone around. So, but a lot of things are changing, and we're beginning to see how the dimension can go. The LA Clippers need to make a move as well because they look like a team that is going downward. They've been able to squeeze out some good wins. Especially, I watched their game against the Chicago Bulls. But with the way things are going, they need to be able to just do one more trade to be able to solidify them, because as that team is presently constructed, a small injury to Luka Doncic and they are finished. The entire season is over. So they have to find a way to rest him and maybe do one or two more trades to be able to get him a bit more encouraged. Maybe Austin Reeves being 100%, him being 100%, and one more person that can just be a backup. And it looks like I'm beginning to suspect the center position. DeAndre Ayton is now beginning to look like someone that may not be able to produce for them. Even though he's still a lob threat, his height has not changed. He will still be able to give them responsibilities of a center, but they need him to be a bit more aggressive or get somebody, you understand, at that level or at that pedigree that can also stand in and come in for him so that he believes that there's competition for that role. So without wasting so much time, I'll be going straight into the Eastern Conference analysis, and we'll also show some aspects on the screen where necessary. The Detroit Pistons are number one, clear number one for me. A wonderful team, best record in the East by a margin. In fact, their wins have about 5 games differential between them and the number 2 team, which is the Boston Celtics. Presently, they are the best record. They are 22-6 in the conference as at the 26th of January, which I'm doing this analysis. And for me, they have continued to dominate the ecosystem of the Eastern Conference. They are beginning to look like a team that will make serious noise in the postseason. I thought the New York team was going to be in this position, but the Detroit were waiting for everybody to see what they were about. They're about 117.4 on points per game slash 110.10 on the other side. That is points that they've taken in as a team. So there's a balanced two-way profile, which means they've scored more points than points that they have allowed. They're 8-2, which means they won 8 and lost 2 in their last 10. And they're still trending upwards as far as I'm concerned. I see the team, just getting to the high level and achieving as much as they want. They are just giving it to everybody, serving them here and there. They're 18-15 at home. And for me, it looks like Detroit is their fortress. They have an identity right now. Fans are, trooping in, trying to see that Detroit is now becoming a powerhouse again. And that's a complete disciplined two-way team, because at home, they're able to show a different composure. And this is a legitimate number 1 seed as far as I'm concerned. That profile which they have brought up, you understand, shows that they'll be able to go far in the postseason. Another thing a lot of people don't talk about when they're analyzing the Detroit Pistons is that team is extremely young. They are so young. They have everything it takes to be able to go far in this season. They have also Thompson. They have a young guard. They have a couple of young guys that are making a lot of noise. Then they now have few veteran presences as well. They have Duncan shooting at a very high level. Duncan Robinson is shooting lights out. In fact, he's shooting at better percentages than last season. So it's going to really help them. And I saw the way he covered the gap for them, especially when they're playing teams that have high volume. When they play the Boston Celtics, and the Boston Celtics were using threes to create separation, they needed Duncan to come in and help them, to just stop the bleeding at that time. And that's why, a three or a spacer, someone that spaces the floor is very, very important. And he will always succeed on the Pistons team. In fact, it was a good replacement. At the time that they said he was going to Detroit, I was so happy because it was a good replacement for them when he didn't get anything done with Miami. For Boston, they're also my clear number two. They're 29 and 17, which is a 0.630 based on performance, and they're plus 6.7 on differential. Now, this differential means that they scored more points than they've received or they've allowed within the season so far. They are 21 and 11 in the conference, which means they beat the teams that they are supposed to beat clearly. You understand? They are 6 and 4 in their last 10. They are steady, but they are not really hot. This is a team that, as far as I'm concerned, they've overachieved. Their best player is still recovering from an ACL injury, and we still have a veteran in Jalen Brown who is still carrying the team with some good shooters around him. And, it's a very structured team. They have a very good coach, and they have high floor contenders as well. So it means that they're able to go into matches contending at a very high level. And that's why we can see them making the level of noise that they are making. So those are the two things for me that are in tier one. I decided not to crowd my tier one because those two teams are in a different league on their own. In my tier two, I'll be going straight into teams that are strong playoff teams, but they are not yet dominant. And this is where we have the Toronto Raptors. Toronto Raptors are presently doing 29 and 11, and they're 0.604 based on teams that are above 500. They are plus 2.1 on differential, which means they've scored more points than number of points they've allowed. They've won 4 in their last, they're trending upward as at the 26th of January. They are 16 of 9 away, which is they have had some good travels where they've won away from Toronto, and the difference is very modest. To me, they've had a lot of close games, which means that they are beginning to go with the new model of the new coach, which is Daco. Daco is beginning to get them some scrappy games. And I like the way he's becoming a very good chemistry with the team. He's really working out jelly well with the team. Very resilient, and they are overpowering some teams that if you had thought about it weeks ago, you'll be wondering that will Toronto be able to come up clutch? A good addition to them has been Brandon Ingram. I'm really excited Brandon Ingram came to the team. He's playing at a very high level. And the thing that is the X factor is he's very healthy. When he was with the New Orleans, there was a time he was carrying the team, only him, when Zion was out and most of their key players were out. It was practically Ingram that was carrying the entire team. But right now he's doing the same with the Toronto Raptors, and I like what I'm seeing from him. Under my tier two, we have the New York Knicks. These are the clear NBA Cup champions, and since then, they've really not had some good wins. And I did a video about them, the game they played against the Brooklyn Nets. Even though the Brooklyn Nets is a fairly weakened team, a team that is considered to tank, the New York Knicks now took advantage of the team and tried to see if they could get back to some winning ways. But still, I'm not saying that boost. So they need just one more trade to be able to prepare the team for what is ahead in the postseason. They are 27 and 18, and they are 0.600, which means they are over a 500 team. And they are plus 4.1 in differential, which is good. It means that they've scored more points than they've allowed by just plus 4.1. They are 17 and 6 at home. The MSG boost is still real, it still exists, and they are 9 of 12 away. So they are still a bit inconsistent away from home. They've won their last 2, they are 4 of 6 in their last 10. This is what I call a slightly wobble team. They do well. They play nuts. In fact, the game that they played against the San Antonio Spurs for the final of the NBA Cup was outstanding. If they had played at that level, they probably have not. They wouldn't have lost as much games as they did immediately after winning the NBA Cup championship. And it's because there's a weak Eastern Conference. That's why they are still fourth on the table. But with the way they've dropped in performance and the way they've dropped in their form, they should be below fourth position. But it's because a lot of other teams within the East are not playing so well as well. Their identity is still a tough team. They still play fast. They are very physical, but they are not yet consistent enough to be a tier one on my list. They're still a tier two team, and that's why one more trade can make things happen for them, and this can just move in their favor. For the Cleveland Cavaliers, they are I call them a quiet team. They are beginning to get their rhythm together. They're 28 of 20, and they're 0.583, which means they're over 500, and they're plus 2.5 differential. They are taking in a lot of points, which means for a team that was number one in the East last season, you are taking in so much points. This season alone, they've taken about 116.5, on their defense. The defense is very shaky at this time of the season. They scored about 119 points per game, high octane offense for me, and they are still able to push. The pressure is coming on Donovan Mitchell, and it's very clear. Donovan Mitchell has always carried the weight of every team he has been in. They've won their last four, and they are hitting up until 26th of January. Their offense, for their team is still good, but they also need to be able to keep that offense from the bench. The problem has always been the bench production has really not been so good for them this season. So that's why they are a tier two team for me, based on this analysis that I've done. A couple of things that they have to improve on is get their defense, either their anchor defense players are still not 100%. Allen is still not playing at a very high level, and I don't believe he's 100%. So if Allen is a bit 100% and they're able to, rally and galvanize the other guys, they will be able to push a bit more. And they still have a lot of time. The season is still going into the All Stars. Anytime after the All Stars, and we start seeing a couple of rounds of wins. That was how the Pacers surprised us last season. Immediately after the All Star game, with about 10 or 15 games to the end of the match, they just went on a run, qualified for the playoffs, and got all the way to the finals. So that can be done by any team. As far as you believe, you can push it. Um, Still on the Eastern Conference on my tier three, I have a playoff team that I have playoff teams rather that still have one or two flaws, things that they can improve on. Immediately after the All-Star game, let's begin to see real reflection of changes. The Philadelphia 76ers fall within this category. They are just slightly above 500. They are 24 of 21, and they are 0.533 plus 0.3 on differential, which means that they've almost had a balance. They didn't really start well, but their key guys are becoming healthy. I saw Paul George play very well at a very high level yesterday. I also saw Embiid now beginning to jump well and not being afraid that he will probably, enjoy his knee again. I'm seeing a young player in Edgecombe, coming up, and right now he's also shout out to him. He's going to be playing with the Rising Stars at the All-Star games as well. And, everybody's just, putting their own effort to make sure that they, galvanize the team and put themselves in a position to succeed. Also, they have a good coach, a championship coach, who won the NBA championship with the Toronto Raptors, Nick Nurse. Is also, playing at a very high level, and they still have a few veteran presence here and there. They've lost their last two. Um, but right now they are 4 of 6 in their last 10, which means they're sometimes they give you that energy that they're trending upward, and sometimes they give you that energy that they're trending downward. So the difference in points that they've allowed and that they've given is near zero. And for me, it's a coin flip team. They are inconsistent, but very talented and volatile. So you can get them hot today, tomorrow they are a bit cold. So a lot of things are moving on in the way this team is presently constructed, but they have what it takes when it comes to talent. Talent-wise, they have what it takes to lead the entire East. In fact, with the kind of talent they have, they should be number one in the East. But because of injuries and, a couple of inconsistencies here and there, they are able to, still put themselves in my tier three, which is playoff team, but they still have some flaws. If they are able to take all these flaws out, they can move to a tier two or even a tier one in the postseason. The next team on this list is Miami Heat. They're 25 of 22, just a little above 500. They started very hot this season. It was looking like I said they were going to win it all. But with the way it's going, they also have a plus 1.7 differential. So they are slightly better on their differential compared to the Philadelphia 76ers. And they are 15 of 7 at home, which means that they've won 15 games and lost 7 at home. But the problem now is they've lost more games away than they've won. They are 10 or 15 away. So to me, it's a classic hit split. They need to improve at home. They've won their last two, but overall they are a bit inconsistent. And it's also because of their roster construction. A lot of young guys that need to develop, but they are not the best of shooters within the league. Apart from Norman Powell, and one or two other guys, they really don't have solid shooters that have very high percentages compared to other good 3-point shooting team. So that's where they probably just need one or two more trades to shake things up, and they're able to get themselves back. They are gritty and competitive, but they don't have that dominance that I keep looking for. They lack that dominance. So those are some of the things they need to work on just to improve and put themselves in better position. A team that a lot of people are sleeping on next is the Orlando Magic. I like this team so much. They really improved. a lot of people still don't believe anything good will come out of them, but they're a very good team. They've experienced a couple of losses that set them backward a bit. That energy I saw a couple of weeks when they played against the Rockets, where they took the game to the last minute and the Rockets were able to sweat before they were able to come up with that win. I'm not seeing that bite anymore. And presently, they've won 23 games and lost 22. So they're just slightly above 500. They are 0.511 and they are minus 0.4 on differential. So their defense is a bit shaky. They're allowing too many points. And since when they came back from the Paris journey, Berlin, they went to Berlin for the international NBA games. They've really not been that gritty team that grinds out a lot of energetic win because they have a lot of young players and they still have some underlying issues they need to sort out between now and the postseason, but that efficiency can still come back. They have what it takes. We saw them go on a couple of runs earlier this season, and they can always do that again. I believe in them. Um, on the Eastern Conference, which we are still there, we have the playing bubble, which is the tier 4. Now, the tier 4, we have the Chicago Bulls. Shout out to Derek, the guy that they just retired his jersey. I really like the guy. I I like the way they retired his jersey. Rose number one. I just like everything about him. I like what he did for the franchise, and I like the way they went for the win. On a good day, you don't want to be retiring your jersey with a team like Boston Celtics, who are second in the East and they are most likely to beat you. But they had a bit of a boost and they got with different kind of energy and they came back and they just won. Rose, congratulations to you for the retirement of your jersey. And that's the first person that will be retiring his jersey with number 1 written on it in Chicago, in the city of Chicago. Thank you for everything you've done for the franchise. And, it was a good time with his family and he was able to enjoy that time. And Chicago was able to retire his jersey as one of the youngest MVPs that city have produced after Michael Jordan. Chicago are presently a 500 team. Shout out to them. They are 23 or 23 and a minus 2.0 on differential. They are 6 or 4 in their last 10. It's a team that is stabilizing. They have a good young guard. And a couple of things are working out well for them. They are playing at a very high level. Even though they lost against the Lakers just 2 days ago, but they still show that they are a team that can fight. And, the differential suggests that they are slightly below average if you look at it. For me, their identity has always been a middle of the pack team. They keep showing that they can move on, and at the end of the day, they just qualify for the play-in. And from the play-in is either they go out or they go out in the first round. But they are a bit biting. They can make 1 or 2 moves that can just become because they have a good coach in Donovan. Um, so I feel that they can just make 1 or 2 trades that can put them in a better position and they become competitive all of a sudden. So they are my number 9 team in tier 4 so far this season. Once they're able to make those changes in a couple of months, they may move to tier 2 or tier 3. Atlanta Hawks also are in my tier 4. And that's just a playing position for them. They are 23 or 25. Clearly, they are below 500. They're 0.479 and they're minus 0.9 on differential. They've won their last 3 and 6 or 4 in their last 10. They're trending upward, but for me, they just have a couple of young guys similar to what we have in Miami. And they are competitive, but they are flawed in some areas. And if you look at them, they could get some tricky wins sometimes. And they are offensive high. They are heavy on their offense. They're able to produce more points. But right now, they do not have Trae Young anymore. So they have to find a way to move on. They also have SGA's cousin, you understand? Alexander is playing at Alexander Arnold. Alexander is with them, playing at a very high level. Yeah. So all they just need to do is just get those guys in better position to succeed, and maybe 1 or 2 trades before the deadline can also help them as well. Because looking at the structure of the team, if you have maybe a veteran presence in the point guard position, maybe it can make some changes around the team. But Atlanta has always been a team that I've always had promise, but at the end of the day, one way or the other, they just keep falling along the wayside. So tier 5 is the final rating and the final group within the Eastern Conference, and these are guys that are outside and they are just looking in. And the reason why this tier 5 exists is because here we have some of the teams that are so disappointing. We, at the beginning of the season, a lot of analysts have talked about the fact that the Milwaukee Bucks were very promising. They had gone for Miles Turner. They were kind of promising Giannis that it was going to be a different season after they had just lost Damian Lillard going back to Portland. But right now, they are all trading and they are fading away. Milwaukee presently have won only 18 and they've lost 26 this season alone. They are they are below 500 as a team. They are minus 3.6 on differential and they are 0.409. This is very, very disappointing. They've lost their last two and they are 4 of 6 in their last 10. And, you know, the thing that worries me a lot about this team is if you look at the last number of years, since 2021 that they won the championship, they've taken a lot of moves that have gone against them. They allowed Drew Holiday to go because they were trying to keep Giannis happy. They brought Dame to try and see whether there'll be a bit of energy. It's just like a marriage where the team now is the husband trying to please the wife. Unfortunately, they've taken a lot of moves that shows that Giannis is not excited about them. They signed his two brothers on the team, but it still doesn't feel like they have done enough. There's nothing wrong in Giannis being aggressive and wanting to fight to be able to get more championships. There's nothing wrong there. He's still at least one of the 5 best players in the league presently, and he has ended because he has brought the championship to Milwaukee. However, the way it goes about the next few years really, really matters because the league has now gotten to a stage where a lot of analysts, a lot of outside pressure kind of puts that immense move on a franchise to take some of these decisions. If Giannis, for example, came out to tell everybody that he doesn't care about winning any more championships, he just wants to be in Milwaukee, till they decide that he wants to retire. At least he has won one championship. Probably the narratives would have been a bit more quiet that, oh, Giannis is a lost cause. There's no need even discussing with the Bucks. But his actions of late have showed that he's hungry and he wants to win more. And the team as presently constructed does not give him that appetite to keep building on becoming more competitive and winning more, because it also has a lot to do with his personal brand. If they're going to be talking about him and he retires now, they will say, oh, Giannis, he won one championship. You understand? Because he's still faithful to one franchise. But right now, the way it's going is he's trying to balance up everything, trying to see, okay, I want to keep this franchise happy because they took a risk on me many years ago, getting a guy to come from Europe because he looked promising. And, maybe the opportunity would have been given to an American guy or American young boy from any of the colleges around. But they decided to take a risk on him and he has become a major pillar of the franchise. So he kind of wants to compensate them, but he also wants to win. And at this stage of life, you have to be able to just take one direction. Keep your relationship. I believe in strategic relationships. Keep your relationship with the franchise, but still go out there and see what you can do. You understand? Just make it that, just like how, Dame was able to go back to Portland, the relationship was solid and they were still able to get him another team to be able to take more risk and go and find maybe some glory in another team. And that's okay. So I see them as a declining roster. If Giannis decides to leave, they were probably going to be hearing that in a couple of weeks because it's intensifying and it's looking like this tier 5 Milwaukee falls within teams that are considered outside and they're trying to just lock in to see how the season goes. If they go on a winning spree, maybe 10 games, 10 of 10, they may just change the narratives. But right now, they are not even in the playing. They're just looking in. Enjoying themselves and probably just fall within the group of the teams that are willing to tank. Charlotte is also a team that's trending upwards. I like what I'm seeing from Kenopel. He's playing very well. A lot of those Lamelo Ball is also, playing some lights out basketball. They are 19 of 28. Obviously they are below 500 team, but they're also not conceding so much compared to other teams within this tier. They are still a plus 1.3 differential. So they are positive despite their poor record, and they have some hidden upsides. In their last 10 games, they've shown that they can actually make some noise between now and the end of the season. They want to be able to prove everybody wrong that they can fight between now and the end of the season. They are 6 of 4. in their last 10, which means they've won more than they've lost in their last 10. They are better than their record, and they could actually surge. They are even more of a team that can perform better. I don't really believe the Brooklyn Nets, who are next, can even get out of the huddle they are in. But Charlotte Hornets, with the way Brandon Miller is also playing, they can't get out of this hole. Brooklyn Nets are the next team. They are 12 of 32. Um, I don't think anything is going to come out of Brooklyn this season. I talked about them briefly in one of my videos last week, and they are really prepared to tank. They are not showing any effort that they want to get out of what they are in. And they probably want to rebuild. So for me, it's simple. They are in the rebuild mode, and there's really nothing much to say about them. The Indiana Pacers are a big disappointment. I know one of their key injuries was the injury to Ali Burton, who is their key player. They are 5 of 5 in their last 10. Sometimes they are hot, sometimes they are cold. Um, they are competing weirdly in recent times because I watched their game against Oklahoma City, and they were really fighting in every possession. They were really fighting. It means that they know how to play some tough teams differently, while some other teams are surprisingly coming and just beating them. So sometimes they can be very, very, very competitive, and I don't think Ali Burton will come back before the end of the season. So for me, it's just a season where they will just go back and think deep and try to just rebuild for next year, or this year rather, for the new season for 2026-2027, because the season is practically over for them. They are quite young, chaotic, but they are not yet a playoff caliber right now from what I'm seeing, even though they got to the final. So this is it's very, very, very different because they started beginning of the season, you understand, as one of the hottest teams, just coming out of a final game 7 just a few months ago with one injury to Ali Burton, and now they are at the bottom, almost dead last in the Eastern Conference. Washington Wizards too, they made some trades that kind of will give them some kind of life next season. They have a lot of young players coming up like Alexa and a few other guys, and now Trae Young is now their starting point guard, even though he's still dealing with an injury, but he's not yet full tier yet. They are one of 9 of their last. They've lost 9 straight, and it's to me it's just a free fall. Washington team have always had promise. They've had few talents, but it's also because nobody really wants to go there. Most of the top players and top talents don't want to go there. They've never really seen the franchise as something that can, or as a team that can challenge the status quo. So most of the guys don't want to go there, and that's exactly what I'm seeing. So so this is just the Eastern Conference. I'll be coming back with the Western Conference. Thank you very much for staying till the end. Once again, Taiwan Ojobi, your host. We like sharp analysis and big love for Canadian Nips on Ice. Thank you for staying till the end. Peace and God bless.